Hey everybody, Aaron here. Thought I'd do a quick walk around video of the new chassis that I'm putting together for the Chevelle Project G-Velle. A lot of guys have asked a lot of questions, asking for a few more detailed pictures and whatnot, and I thought maybe a video would be the best thing to do. I'd love to push it outside and take it off the frame table, but kind of a pain in the butt to do. So I figured a video maybe showing some details would be best. Start up front. You can see the Mass Motorsports black label LS3 630. That's completely unchanged from before. I didn't do anything to motor or trans. Just transplanted it in the new frame. Had to get a little creative on packaging, as you can see. It's a little bit tight. Looking at the front clip, which is a Ron Sutton Race Technology TA2, you can see it has a sweet manufacturing power assisted rack servo, long upper and lower control arms. Everything's slotted and adjustable with caster slugs. Ride Tech triple adjustable long travel front shocks, triple adjustable rear shocks. Were actually the rear shocks I had on the car before. Just was able to use those again. Steering arm length is adjustable. Of course, tie rods are adjustable. The lower control arms are on UMI roto joints, so those are completely adjustable and sealed. The brakes are Stop Tech from Ron Sutton as well. 6-piston front, 4-piston rears. Take a look at those. And of course the awesome Forgeline RB3Cs, 18 by 11 front and 18 by 11 rear, with the BFG 315 Rival S's front and rear as well. Still have a tiny bit of fab work to do. You can see the upper shock mount. I welded a boss on there to put a tie bar that goes from tower to tower once it's in the car, and then that will be triangulated back into the firewall for stiffening up the front end even more. Fabricated bumper mounts and the front body mount bolt hole. Spline sway bar. It's adjustable to position, and it's all inside of a tube and Delrin bushing bushed on both sides. Come around to this side, you can see I added a couple triangular gussets where the TA2 clip meets the factory frame rails. And I've had a lot of questions on that, you know, how much is factory and how much is new. Basically it's 90% new. The only thing I used that was factory was these main side rails, and then in behind the car in the back, the portion that holds the bumper up that wraps around the back, that's factory. You can see where the factory rail terminates at the offset for the mini tub. Additional gusseting, I also added these bars here you see tied in from the rear of the TA2 front clip, come back and then diagonal back into the main frame rails. That stiffened the front end up immensely, made a huge difference. Out back here, same transmission. It's a Bowler Performance Modified T56. I have a Ram 10.5-inch clutch. Nothing crazy. Drive shaft's missing, it's still on the floor here. I got to swap rear U-joints to get that back in the car and chassis. You can see I bent up 3/8 stainless steel fuel line from the tank. Used a Holley inline fuel filter, and that runs up the front of the chassis to a bulkhead and then goes to soft line, flex line, up to the fuel rail. Pretty straightforward. On the braking side of things, there is a Wilwood prop valve for front and rear bias adjustment. It was easier to run the lines to the prop valve, and then I'll slip it back into the chassis, and then the prop valve will bolt right up to the side of the master cylinder. It looks kind of funny just floating there. But all stainless steel brake lines, 3/16. It's a one-piece line all the way to the rear, where the line comes around and meets a bulkhead on the fabricated cross member, and then a flex line to the rear axle, and then the split is made at the rear axle. Pretty typical. So the back's kind of cool. Probably the part I'm most proud of, I guess, of the whole deal. I designed and built it all myself, which is pretty satisfying. I just hope it works. That has yet to be seen, but hopefully it will. You can see I made a tubular cross member to replace the factory stamped sheet metal, and where they had bolting gussets that tie down into the lower control arm mounts, I fabbed up some tubes and then welded those in so that it's all solid and rigid. And of course, the first thing you'll notice is it's a 3-link instead of a 4-link to allow for easier and more controllable articulation, as well as adjustable roll center. And that's probably the coolest part. I want to give a quick shout out to the guys at UMI for the help in fabricating the burnouts for the rear Watts link that I designed. Pretty excited about that. You can see right now it's in the middle position. There's 2 positions up at 3/4 increments and 2 positions down at 3/4 of an increment. So a 3-inch total range of roll center adjustment. If I go down lower, you can see the lower rod on the passenger side, as well as a turnbuckle. I was a little concerned about that bracket moving side to side under load, so I put a adjustable turnbuckle with rod ends on either side and tied it into the lower control arm mount. That should stiffen things up nicely there. Of course, the Ride Tech shocks that I mentioned before are off the previous chassis. And here you can see the upper mount with the rod ends going to the bell crank in the center. Of course, the whole entire Watts link is it's a bolt-in ordeal, so 3 bolts on either side and the whole assembly will come out. Nothing but the best in the back: forge lines, BFGs, and stop tick brakes. As well as Detroit Speed and Engineering. I went with their C7 bearing floater kit. So it turned a stick type axle into a full float axle. You can kind of see in there what's going on. There's a welded flange that accepts the Corvette bearing on the end of the axle. Very nice setup. Of course, they have bump stops up top. They can be adjusted with shims. The Strange Pro HD aluminum housing. Huge thanks to ABC Performance and Tony G there. Helped me out a bunch on that. Can't thank him enough. Strange housing that I started with, a blank one. It was all customized, obviously, from scratch by myself. Built the Watts link brackets, which also double as a sway bar bushing mount. I have an aluminum spacer in there because things were getting a little tight here around the 9-inch housing, which is also pretty common. The sway bars run up here. It's a 3-hole position sway bar. It was the one I had before. Some of the numbers indicate that I may need to go to a little bit lighter bar, but I'm going to give this one a shot. I had it. Why not? Of course, this side's disconnected currently. Just doing articulation checks. So that's what the new chassis looks like. A little bit more detail, I hope, for everybody. I hope to have it in the car, back under the body real soon. I planned to have it done by now, but I guess life gets in the way. Nothing new there. That's it. Hope everybody liked what they saw. I'm pretty excited to try it. we'll check in with you later. Thanks.